me, I've been in personal development, just so you know, it's going to be 29 years in June. So long time in personal and spiritual development. And in that time period, I also had a marriage end after 24 years together and 17 married. And I was devastated at the time. There was lots happening in our life, lots of emotional upheaval with, I had an ill child and parents divorcing and my dad's death. And there was so much going on. And all within a nice 2 year span, this happened. And so in 2012, we separated. And it took me about a good 3 years to really try to come back into who I was and get my butt off the couch. Lost a lot of business. I have two kids, and now they're 20, almost 26 and 20. And so at the time, you're trying to juggle. If anyone here has kids, 1 week you're a parent, and you're going, and the next week I'm bawling on the couch and I couldn't function. So it took me a while to get moving. But once I started taking my own advice that I've been giving clients for years and started really doing the healing work, I got back out and I dated, because in the first time in my life, I was with my husband since I was 16. So I never dated. And so I learned how to date, and I learned what that felt like and looked like, and what it showed me, and triggers that came to be. And it was fascinating. And I honestly do say my greatest form of self-love came through online dating. I learned so much about myself in the process. And so, long story short, I've just really narrowed the niche down. And I do say 40 to 60, because I find by that point, doesn't mean you can't be 30, 32 single. It doesn't mean you can't be widowed, or just stay single. What it does mean, though, is that usually by our age, okay, so I'm going to say like end of millennials, Gen X for sure, we've gone through some form of heartbreak, right? We've managed to get through some pretty big life struggles. We've had incredible successes and horrible falls, and life is probably not the way we expected it to be. And that's why I kind of focus on that age group, because if I was to just go out and start really helping 20 somethings, it's a different mindset, because I'm very much on being consciously aware and doing the healing work, because I've been in personal development for a long time. So that's for me where I come from. So I've now been single pretty much for 13 years. I've had a couple of solid relationships in there, but I won't settle, because I honestly have learned to love myself in my alone time enough that I'm not willing to bring someone in if it's not healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. So, from that being said, I'm still single. And I thought, I've been getting so many questions, so many asks. I've done professional talks, I've done seminars, it's been a big part of my life. I was like, maybe the universe wants me to do this a little more. And this is why I'm now trying to do this, because more and more I kept hearing people saying like, I don't know what to do. I haven't gone out there before, or things are different now, right? When, if we go back to when we dated when we were probably teenagers or early 20s, like there was no internet online dating. That didn't exist. It's new for us now. So this is why I'm bringing everything back into this. So I hope that makes sense and where I'm coming from. We're going to have some fun tonight, but I want this to be honest, guys. I want this to be a very open discussion. Okay. I mean, yeah, I've taught all this stuff for a living, but really now it's like I also learn from all of you. And I want this to be a good open discussion. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring the do's and don'ts of online dating in is a couple of the other ones. I was running seminars called Dating Smart Over 40. I've had quite a few of them for the last couple of years. And I kept hearing like, you know what, guys, don't hold up a fish. That was what we talked about last time, Bear. I don't know if you were still in the call. They were like, don't hold up a fish for your online profile, because girls don't want to see that. And then another person, maybe it was Mike, who could be driving, and then Michael, and then he was like, but that shows that I'm a protector and a provider. And I started hearing these things more and more. I was dating online, and I had a gentleman say to me, the one reason I actually swiped right on you is you're the only woman who didn't show her breasts online. I was like, really? Like just a picture, like, really? So I started realizing a long time ago that there's people who, again, what women think, what men think, and I'm not saying whether or not we both are into the same sex or like whatever works, but our mindset of what we believe people want to see and what we're portraying can be different. So that was partly why I wanted to do this. So one of the things I usually like to say is go in with your eyes open, and you want to also start taking a look. We're going to talk about AI pictures. We're going to talk about things like that, because things have shifted a lot even in the last year. But you want to say First and foremost, start getting some questions going if you match that are open-ended questions. Don't go with yes or no questions. See if you can get engagement and see if you can start to actually connect. Now, there's so many things we do have to worry about. There's scammers. I can admit, trust me, I have been catfished. I have been scammed. I have been like, I've been ghosted. I have been love bombed. I mean, you name it. This is why I'm doing this. I've gone through 13 years of dating. And so I've experienced a lot. I still think it's great. I've met two phenomenal men, well, three phenomenal men that I would say I had a good relationship with that I've met online. There's good people out there. You're all ready to date. There's good people going on these sites. You just got to weed through all the other stuff. So I want you to know right away, just go in with your head on your shoulders. 80% of this is like fake. And then if you do that, you'll start being aware. Okay. So again, you're not going to take it personally. There's no judgment. It's not like somebody just ghosted me. No, 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 no. Just don't worry about that stuff. If dating does anything online for you, it'll make you more confident, have more self-esteem, and feel more empowered. Or you can choose for it to beat you down and give you completely the opposite. If you believe that your worth is by what everybody else thinks and says and reacts to a picture and a profile, you're never going to get out of the mud. And I honestly want to raise people up to know there's so much beauty in who you are. Do not let anybody in any way tear you down online, okay? Organically is always the best way, right? You get to know someone, you know they're real, you can
Mhm.
see them, you can talk to them. Organically is great, but we don't necessarily always have an opportunity to meet organically. Like, for example, with a couple of us here being north of Toronto, we usually have to go into Toronto to kind of meet
Yeah.
somebody. Like I live in a
Mhm.
town that's very much like married, 2.5 kids and a dog, um, that type of thing. So I'm not really going to meet anybody up here when it comes to a separated divorce or even single man my age. So I do say organically is great. I do love meetups. I started one here back in February and it's already grown to 60 members. It's called Conscious Connections. And a couple
Mhm.
of guys today are part of that meetup, Sam and Michael as well. And it's a great way for us. What I try to do is one seminar a month like this, but also one meetup in person a month. So, we went to a maple syrup festival. We've had some coffee dates. I'm going to do bowling in May. So we're trying to
Nice.
get connections. And my whole thing is conscious connections. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to find the right person, but at least you
Mhm.
can hang around people going through some of the same stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You have that commonality. Um, Speed dating, sure, definitely. And there's so many seminars, workshops. When I say this for men. I even did a little a reel on it. You'll probably find it on YouTube or Instagram. And I always say this to the men. If you want to meet really amazing, evolved women, go to personal development spiritual seminars. This is where women who are working on themselves, who are really diving into who they are, that's where you want to find somebody. They're not just into drama. They're not just into screwing you over. They really want to work on themselves. And if you're a man, I'm just saying this from a straight woman's point of view. If you're a man and you show up to one of those seminars, woo, let me tell you, you are sexy because you're doing your work. Okay. And we love conscious women, love men who are doing their work because we are sick of drama. We are sick of all the crap. We don't want to deal with that. We
Yeah.
want we want a sacred masculine, evolved sacred masculine. Got to work on yourselves, guys. If you work on yourselves to heal that heart and to heal and change the patterns of the mind, women will love you for that. So one of the things, Raj, I will say though, and I'm going to just say be cautious. You know you, so I'm never one to guide. You know you. And in saying that, be cautious dating if you're not quite
Mhm.
ready. I do
Mhm.
think and I love to say when you're ready, go out, date and learn about yourself. And if you are going to do that, be very open and honest and say to the person, listen, I am fresh. I am new. I'm
Mhm.
still healing. I'm working through things, but I'm looking for people that are single. I'm looking to get out and meet people and have fun. If you're looking to jump back into a relationship, I can almost guarantee you from even all the clients I've worked with in the last 30 years, you're going to just hit the same cycle of pattern,
Yeah.
right?
Mm. I totally agree with you.
Up because there's a fine line, right? We get worried about our trust. and we want to not trust. And then that sets the boundary. And as soon as the boundary is set and we block that heart, then we're not really giving and receiving love freely. We're now
Hmm.
cautious,
Yep.
and our boundaries, our walls could be really high. So it's finding a fine line between being vulnerable and able to trust, but also learning how to set healthy boundaries and voicing
Yes.
those boundaries.
Hmm.
So whatever you do, don't shut down. Don't shut down that trust, because that's a
Hmm.
beautiful, beautiful piece. It's just knowing maybe how to voice with love and how to set those boundaries. And then if you ever wanted to work, like, this is the work I do. So if you ever needed to work with someone, by all means, I would work with you, and we could have some sessions to get through some of that, because you never want to stop the flow. I work with the energy centers and the chakras, and your heart center is about
Hmm.
trust and the heart's about
Hmm.
love. So it's like catch 22, right? And this is the
Yeah.
problem. We, especially all of us that have gone through so much in life, so often we don't trust. We've been cheated on, or we've had something happen, or our boundaries have been crossed, or our values disrespected. So we block our trust and we just
Hmm.
stop. But then that also stops us from being open to allow,
Yeah.
right? So it's again, it's a catch 22.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Thank you.
just be aware. But I would say yes, please keep your heart open. And I
Appreciate
don't
that.
know if there's anything about too honest. More like the person receiving might not be in a place to take the honesty if they're not ready. But if you are dating someone who has evolved or is more connected, then chances are they're going to love and appreciate honesty. Awesome. There's something, okay, I'm going to mention because of what we've been talking about. And this is where I would put it under the don'ts of online dating. And this is how you'll also know when you've healed and been ready. When you start to date, especially if you are relatively fresh in the dating world after a long period of time, I want you just to be very cautious and careful about telling your story and how much you speak about your ex. And now, one hand, I'm going to say, being in the dating world, one of the benefits is it teaches us how to tell our story and how to tell it in a Reader's Digest type of way. If everyone knows Reader's Digest, short and sweet, with compassion, hopefully with some forgiveness, understanding, but here's who we are, right? Here's who we are. This is what we had to go through, and here's where I am today. I've learned over the years, you can tell whether you yourself or the person you are going on a date with is not in a healthy place if you're really focused on all the bad things that happened and you talk a lot about your ex. And I will tell you, when you go on a date with someone, you don't want to hear all about their ex. You're there. You want to hear about the person, right? Or even if that person's passed away, like Glennis, I know your husband has passed. It's beautiful if you can come and say, here's what happened, and this is my husband, and this is what I felt, and it's been tough. And I'm looking to move forward. And so many of us, though, who have gone through separation, divorce, are so connected to the pain and haven't really done the work that they want to tell everyone about the pain, because they want that compassion, they want that pity, they maybe they're in more of a codependent type of a role, and they want to be rescued out of it. And that's when you can really have those, I don't even want to say red flags, because it's not a red flag as much as it's just the person's not ready. And so if you're on a date and you're like, oh my God, I've been mentioning this a lot more than I should, take note. And you will find the more you date, the better you get at being able to say, yeah, like, this was the scoop, here's how long I was married, this is what happened, this is what was painful, this is what hurt. And one of the ways you can also tell that you've evolved through this and managed through the feelings is that you can tell it without your emotions getting the best of you. And that's when you know, okay, I can do this, and I can date, and I could be ready. And so it's a beautiful thing. So one of the things I'm just thinking, especially with a few of you here that are pretty fresh, this is why healing, I think, is also important, because it makes sense, right? You're out on a date with someone, that person wants connection with you. They don't want connection with your ex. So remember, just keep that in mind, because that's one of the don'ts I have down is make sure you don't carry your past into your conversation. Okay, carry your hopes, your dreams, your future, where you are now, your successes. And then when you get to know someone, you'll get a little bit deeper too, right? But yeah, makes sense to everyone? Yeah, okay, awesome. So we do have a couple of do's. We do know to be open. We do know to be a little bit vulnerable. We do know how to, tell our story in a short and sweet way. Um, we've talked about let's heal first and date second. I want to also say get clear on your intentions. Here's another do. Do get clear on your intentions, meaning if you are wanting to date, really sit with yourself and ask yourself, why? Why do I want to date? What's this about for me? Because sometimes it's just because you're lonely and you just have a need. You've been with someone, like for me, I was with my partner 24 years. It was really hard for me to be alone. Like I came from a house that not only had noise all the time, and I was the youngest, the TV was always on, the radio was always on, someone was always in and out. I had older brothers and sisters, friends coming in and going. And then I went from my parental home right into marriage because I went to college in the same city. So I ended up never living alone. So for me, I was 40. I found out on my 40th birthday he wanted a divorce. By the time I moved out, I had never lived alone. I had never been without my kids for longer than like a day. It was devastating for me. And so the natural piece of being a human is we want to be like, oh, we need someone, right? Like we've got to have that connection. We need someone to talk to. We need someone to tell about our day. We need to go do something. And one of the greatest pieces of healing I ever received in my life, and I'm so thankful, is I learned how to be alone. And that's where you'll learn so much about yourself. So much. You said something which really resonates, which I think any of us can get from this, and I preach this a lot, is life happens for you, not to you. And as much as sometimes we do not understand that, especially when we have a partner pass away, or someone wants a divorce right away, and you're like, what the? Life can happen for you. And when you start to look at how life happens for you, you turn the blame. So when we like, da, 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 this happened to me, you did this to me, you did this to me, I always say there's three fingers pointing back. But when we are like, oh, this happened for me, you start to see the beauty and the benefits of it. And man, the journey can be tough. Like life is tough, man. Like if I didn't have my spiritual belief, I have belief tattooed on my arm. If I didn't have a belief in a higher power, I don't know what I would do to get through. This is what got me through life so far. So I look at that and I think to myself, anytime that we get triggered, we have to take a look at how life is happening for us. And so when it comes to being alone, this is something where I'm gonna challenge the people who are going to be, unfortunately, not with somebody, as Jeffrey, you're moving through that divorce. Raj, you're pretty fresh too. Like it's it's not an easy thing. And so really starting to look at, wow, if I'm uncomfortable, if I'm feeling uncomfortable with this quiet, uncomfortable being alone, uncomfortable feeling like I should be with someone or doing something, I want you to just stop and say why. And that goes back to the intention of what's your intention to date? And don't get me wrong, I cannot put a timeline on it. Like you might be ready and meet the love of your life at 6 months. Who am I to say? You know? And at the same time, I want you to go, just make sure your intention, you know what it is. Because also, if your intention is just to go out and like have a sexual partner, great, then go for it. And be honest about that. Be open and honest about that. If you are, dating, or say, Glennis, you go out and you meet someone, you could be open and honest. Like, I'm not ready for a relationship, or I don't want to live with anyone, but I would really just love a companion to go out for dinner with. When you know your intention, you can be open and honest about that, and then you'll attract the same back, right? I really do believe in that energy of attraction. So just something to think about is, what is your intention? Yeah, hopefully it's not too much. That's one thing I love about the beauty of these seminars is I throw it out there and we learn from each other as much as I have, knowledge I can bring to the table. Really, it's life and it's human experience. And so I find it fascinating to learn from everyone and at the same time just to be there to support each other and raise each other up so you're not alone. Like you're not alone. You're going through some crazy times, but you're not alone. And sometimes that's all we need to get through the day, right? Is to know you're not sitting there alone thinking, oh my God, is it just me? Like, whether it's online, am I the only one getting ghosted? Or, am I the only one scared to do this again? Or scared to be, trusting or vulnerable? No, you're not alone. This is what I'm loving about being a conscious single, right? Is you're doing the work and You're enjoying who you are, and you're I don't know, just it's amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it. And this is where, when we do these seminars, it can be inspiring for others. We can learn from each other, because just what you said, Bear, could definitely be something that helps someone else. And same with you, Glennis, right? So thank you for sharing that. And please don't think that by us doing this, I'm saying in any way, shape, or form that you have to get into a relationship. It's not. It's again, it's your choice. It's whatever you want to do with it. I'm really focused on you, funny enough. I'm focused on the person we are on the inside. And if that means attracting a partner, great. If it means just enjoying who you are too, great. There's a couple things I wanted to say that we mentioned then. So we talked about not settling because you're lonely, right? And knowing yourself first, not carrying your past into conversations. Um, One of the things I was just going to mention too, and then I'd love to hear, like, Amy, what you're thinking, or Michael. I wanted to say, not to, like, if you start to date, don't give up after a few dates. One of the things that I've seen in myself over the years, as well as others, I can be open about this too, is you date one person and then you try to make that work instead of being open to dating other people. And I know that's hard for some people. Some people, right now I've been very open as I'm dating, saying, listen, I don't want to just date one person. I want to date until I know the person is the right one. Like, I really am personally ready for my partner. So I am at, like, again, I'm not going to settle, but I'm not going to just date one person. I want to be able to go, oh, maybe I will date this person on Friday, and then maybe next Friday I'll date someone different. And it's for me to get a sense of who people are. But I want to say, be careful about just jumping into someone and ignoring those red flags, or ignoring when it doesn't feel right, or your values aren't maybe being aligned or respected, because you feel like, well, there is all this, so we should get together. And I can speak on this because I was just dating a lovely man. And I do feel that the more you work on yourself, the more phenomenal the people are that come attracted to you. And I've been really blessed with meeting great people, like, great. And I was just on a few dates with this one person who, honestly, all the boxes were checked, like, all the boxes. And I didn't feel a spark. And then, so I said, no, no, it's not aligned for me. We'll move on. And a couple of months went by and we reconnected. Funny enough, I had a Christmas present for him and it was from months ago. And so we said, oh, we'll get together and have coffee. And long story short, we got talking. And I realized the few times I went on a couple of dates with him, I had just traveled to Kenya. I had had some stuff going on financially. There was a lot going on in my life. I thought maybe I didn't give him benefit of the doubt, right? So, okay, let's try again. So went on a few more dates. And he's all good. He's like, all right, this is done deal. We're together. And I just wasn't feeling the spark. And then I realized, okay, you know what? It doesn't matter how many boxes you have checked. Sparks are important to me. Some people they're not. And some people it's just like, no, as long as you've got a lot in common, it's great. But what I do want to mention is, be careful that you just don't jump in, because, well, it's pretty good, or it's better than it was, or, make sure you really know what it is that you're searching for. And again, that's partly, Bear, like you were saying too, doing the work and getting out there and knowing what it's like to be alone, or, what your likes are, your dislikes, what you want to attract, what you don't. Um, a suggestion I have for my clients, and I'll suggest for all of you, Raj too, and Jeffrey as well, and is, get a journal, or even a piece of paper, and divide it into 4 sections, and put physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual in each corner, and start writing really openly what you want in each of those areas. And be careful not to put what you don't want, put what you do want, because the universe responds to positivity. They don't hear the negative. So if you say, oh, well, I don't want someone with blue eyes, they just hear blue eyes. So from a universal standpoint, put, oh, I want someone with green eyes. Be very specific physically. We all have a type. We all have something we like or we're open to. Write it down. Write what you want that person to look like. And always say this or more, or this or better. Mentally, we forget all the other aspects. So here's the thing about online dating. Mainly it's physical first, right? And we're either going, yeah, we think you're gorgeous, or no, we don't. We might look at the profile and go, okay, there's some stuff that gets me. But are we really connecting emotionally or mentally or spiritually? No. We're just getting an overview surface. Oh, I like to paddleboard, or I do yoga, or I like to travel, right? I have a dog, like whatever. But that's not really telling you much. So when you divide your paper into four and you start thinking on the mental side of things, mental means for me, it's the energy center of the solar plexus, if you know about the chakras. How do you want someone's confidence and self-esteem to be? Do you want them to be a leader? Do you want them to be focused in business, taking care of their own finances? Do you want them to think positively or negatively? Get looking at that type of mentality. I want to have great spiritual conversations. I want to be able to be diving into deep subjects and being able to watch documentaries together and talking about it after. Then you go into the emotional side and you're like, okay, we all know what we don't want emotionally because usually we've all been hurt. What do we want? Like for me, I want compassion. I want someone I can laugh with. I want someone who's nice to the waiter or waitress at a restaurant. I want someone who will go up and actually give money to a homeless person or maybe travel and do something to help a charity across the world. I look at the emotions on someone I can talk to, cry with, right? So, what does that look like for you? How's the trust issue? How's the boundaries? How are the values? Those are all part of the emotional connection to a person. And then the spiritual. How do you want them to be? Some people, it's a religion. It's very much, I'm Hindu, I need someone who's Hindu, or, Christian and Christian. It could very well be, look, for me, I'm a spiritual psychic medium. I want someone who's okay with that. I was married to a microbiologist, and God love him, but life began from the atom. We didn't really connect from a spiritual standpoint. I want to find someone that I can have those deep conversations with or go, just like you said, Glennis, you won't believe the dream I just had, and have someone go, wow, tell me, what does that mean? I want to be able to have those connections. So spiritually, how do you want that person to be, right? What would you like them to think about life and the purpose? And when you see what I mean, now you're starting to create an intention. You're also creating an energy about what you want to attract, and you're telling the universe, hey, this is the vibe I want. This is the frequency I want. And I really want to attract this and more, this or better. Okay, so you're not just going by surface. So when we talk about online dating, I look at that as like horoscopes. You look up your horoscope, I'm a Pisces. I can go to the, Toronto Star, I can flip through, I can read my horoscope, done. It's this big. But there's so much more depth to it. And so it's the same type of thing with this. Yeah, we can go online. And yeah, our first thing's going to be physical, and we might get a tad of something else. You gotta dig and you gotta know. And so it's very good to be able to go, yeah, here's what I'm sitting with. And also, what am I going to compromise and what am I not? Right? What are some things that are non-negotiables? Like I can't be with a smoker. My dad died of lung cancer and he didn't even smoke. But I can't stand it. Can't stand the smell of it. Don't want to kiss someone with a smoker's breath. Like it's just no. So I can't. So that's a non-negotiable. So when you really start looking at all of these and for you, Glennis, for example, you don't even know if you want to date. This is stuff that you can start to form, but doesn't mean you have to go after it right away. I'm going to actually do a seminar, and I also can do a 1 hour session as well. Not normally I have like breakthrough soul sessions when you're really working through things on your own, and I can help with that. And actually, Lori can throw a link into the chat if you're interested in looking into that. But I also can use that session if you're interested to help you with your marketing online. Because believe it or not, marketing is my original background. And I have helped three past people I dated find the love of their life because I helped them shift their profile so that their profile did cover everything and not just the surface. And a lot of people don't know how to write profiles or even just what pictures to use. And so that's a really big thing. So what time are we? Let's talk about that really quickly. I want to hear quickly from the guys and the girls. I'm separating us here on what's a physical. Don't do. Okay, so for me, please don't take bathroom selfies. Please don't. I do not need a urinal behind you. That does not attract me. I'm not interested. Now, granted, this is just me, but I'm going to speak for I think the majority of women on this one. So for example, no bathroom pictures. So here's something I do know. You've got to be able to have friends that can take pictures of you. Selfies are okay, but they're always in the car or they're always in a bathroom or they're always with a fish. I want to see something you do that you love. So for example, one of the guys I dated when we broke up, we stayed friends. And he was a marathon runner. So I was like, why are you not putting a picture of yourself in a race? That is like hot and sexy. Someone's going to love that. So he found a great picture. He put that up to show that he races in marathons. Awesome. So give me something. Also, the people that are like, oh, I love to laugh, but there's no pictures of them smiling. So this is where things I could actually like do help you. It's authenticity is the key, right? And again, I believe that's part of the work when you're doing the healing work and you're evolving, you're finding your authenticity. So for the people that are going the opposite, they're just not in that place. And it's a good way to weed out a lot of people. And you will weed out a lot of people. And the more you heal, the more you weed out because there's a lot of broken people in the world and it's a sad thing. I always tell people I should be a multimillionaire for the work I do, but most people don't want to work on their stuff. If they did, I would be so rich. No, but they just don't want to do the work because doing the work is painful. You got to look at your shit. You got to dive in. You got to really admit who you are and what's going on with you and what needs to be shifted and healed and forgiven. And that takes effort and that takes, a lot of energy and time. And there's a lot of people who don't want to do that work. So I think it's smart. And what you're saying, Bear, makes so much sense. And just weed out that inauthentic stuff right away. Um, AI is really pulling not only amazing profiles out from like the words, but oh my God, have you seen how sometimes they look so real and they're not real? So I do suggest 100%, even before AI, before you go on a date with anyone, have a video chat with them. We're all capable, whether it's through your phone or whether it's through Facebook messaging. Thanks, Amy, or anything like that. Definitely have a video chat. You want to know that person is real. And if they do not want to video you, red flag, red flag. Here's where you want
Is
to
that
ask
a question?
open-ended questions, right? And it's really important to ask open-ended questions. The first question I usually ask right away when I match with someone is, so what made you smile today? I want positivity. I want to hear where they're going to come from. I want to hear if they can find the beauty in the day, right? The favorite part of their day, or give me something. And I have had people write the most beautiful things, and I've had people say almost nothing. I'm
Yeah,
like,
because they don't know how to answer that.
right. If you start asking the questions where they're open-ended, you'll be able to see if that's AI or not. And even if it is AI, can they respond? So I love to travel as well, and I've traveled many places. And so if I see someone who loves to travel, they always say, "Oh, what's your favorite place?" But I'll be like, "Tell me about an experience that shifted something in you with your travel." Right? I could talk about going to India and being in one of the poorest villages and being invited in to have bread with an 18-year-old girl on a cement floor who invited us all in to eat with her. Like I have things I can talk about. If you can't talk about something like that, well then what kind of traveling are you doing? And are we on the same wavelength? So ask open-ended questions that align with who you are, which is also why it's really good to write those 4 quadrants because it shows you who you are and what you want. And then you can ask about it, right? Like again, if I want deep conversations with someone, and I might be like, what's the best documentary you've watched? I need something new to watch. What would you suggest? Let me see what they say. So try to find something besides yes and no answers. Okay, and that's going to get you at a place where you know if they're deeper, but always a video chat first, and obviously meet in a public place, meet somewhere where you definitely can leave if you need to leave for men and women. This is why Starbucks was rated the #1 place for first dates because it was just a little bit above a Tim Hortons and a Dunkin' Donuts, but not quite a bar. So you're not quite, or a restaurant. So you could just go in and you could have, you can sit and have a 3-hour conversation, or you can have a half-hour conversation. You can have a nice enough drink, but you can leave, right? But you want to kind of make sure you meet in a place that is smart because, as you're saying, Bear, you might think someone is supposed to be like ripped, and then you walk into the place, you're like, well, who are you? I didn't even know who you were. So you want to get a sense of who they are and be very cautious if they do not want to show you who they are. There's a lot of scammers that will give you all that emotional love and everything you want to hear and then never show you who they are, but ask you for money, so that's happened a lot. You just want to, again, be smart about things. Okay. And if you're really unsure, reach out to me. Hey, this doesn't feel right. I have free 15-minute calls anytime. Free 15-minute calls. And Lori, if you can throw that into the chat, you can use that as well for if you just want to like, got a question, you want to tune into what your angels and guides are saying, you want to ask me something that you're unsure of, or you might be embarrassed to ask someone else, whatever it may be, or you could just be like, hey, I'm going on this date. What do you think? Whatever it may be, it's free 15 minutes. Call me, book it, and I can help you with that. Okay. Or I can help you with some questions to help you answer. So let's talk really quickly about what we got. We've also said don't. So we're not going to settle for loneliness. We're not going to put pictures online that don't align with who we are. We're not going to ignore any red flags. We're not going to put authenticity to the side because we're conscious, evolved people. We're not going to give up hope after a few dates. We're going to keep trying because honestly, I'm going to say this too, every date you go on is a success. Every date, because you're learning something about you. Even if the date doesn't go well, that's okay because you're learning something new about you. And that's a beautiful thing. Um, and we're not going to just try to make things work, but we do know that we're going to be clear on our intentions. We're going to heal first. We're going to really do some healing work before we jump into anything. We're going to stay open and honest, open-minded, and we're going to trust our instincts. And I think, if anything, we've covered a lot in an hour and a half tonight because we talked about a whole lot more than just the do's and don'ts of online dating. I think we talked a lot about just life and what it takes to really heal through these times when we're, going through going through human existence with crazy ups and downs and roller coasters of emotions and trying to figure out who we are and what we're doing and what we want. And once you have been in that partnership for a long period of time, like Jeffrey and Raj and Glennis too, and we're coming out of that and we're moving into something new, or like you, Bear, as well, and even I know Sam's kind of connected with someone. It's okay. We're still learning, we're still growing. And I really commend you all for the courage to be here, to talk, to be open, to be vulnerable, and to share. Because I learned from you just as much, and I really appreciate that. And can I say, I'm loving working on this niche. Like, I'm loving it because it's so exciting to me. And now I'm kind of like, maybe this is why I've been single for so long. The universe wanted me to do this work because I don't know where my guy is. But anyway, but that being said, it's been a journey and I've learned a lot and experienced a lot. So I'm hoping to keep, I'll be doing these monthly, changing them up, and I hope you keep coming back. I do want to say join the meetup. And again, Lori's got a link. There's lots of links in that chat for you. And oh, thank you, Sam. Join the meetup because even if you can't be in the Toronto area, you can still be a part of this. You can still be part of the discussions. You can still meet other like-minded conscious singles, right? You can put questions on the discussion. We can do things. So definitely still be a part of that and get out there. I always say, you know what? Just get out there. You want to do the healing work, but we will learn so much about ourselves when you just put yourself out there. So whether it is trying speed dating just for the experience, not to find your person, not to find the best romance of your life, but just to say, hey, I'm single. I want to see what this is like and be open with that intention. Give it a shot. If you go online, okay, but you're going to go online. I'm going to learn about me instead of I'm going to find the one. Throw that expectation out the window and just see what you can do for just getting out there and making movement and learning, okay? And do those quadrants, believe me, it's pretty fascinating.